next week, I think February 6th, we're talking about this because we'll have released the episode and we'll probably have clips talking about this. But the NFL awards proposal. So next week they announce like the MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, yada, yada, yada. Those awards suck, in my opinion. Get rid of MVP, get rid of Offensive Player of the Year, get rid of Defensive Player of the Year, get rid of both Rookie of the Year awards. That is not an accurate way to show recognition to all of the different positions and how they affect the game really in a great light. Because MVP is a quarterback award. Unless someone breaks a record,
Well, even with that, Saquon probably still isn't going to win
exactly. And that's my issue. What we just talked about earlier with how Saquon and Jamar, one of them's leaving without a fucking award. That's stupid. MLB has a better award system than you. Why are you treating this like it's the NBA where there's 5 players on a court that can all honestly affect the game relatively the same way? This is not, no. Football, you have 11 different positions. 11, they should be treated as such. So get rid of Pro Bowl, keep All Pro. This would be something higher than All Pro. The Player of the Year awards by position-based. So you would have a Quarterback of the Year. Voted the same way, nothing changes, but then like quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, offensive lineman of the year. Because there's 5 All-Pro linemen. Who's the best of the All-Pros? There's 3 All-Pro receivers, or 2. Who's the best? This honestly would give you more recognition. And the same on defense. Defensive lineman, linebacker, cornerback, safety of the year. There are always, for All-Pro, a lot of those, there are multiple. Who's the best? That's, players' egos talking. Everyone wants to know who's the best. MVP is not good enough for that. And you could do the same for special teams. Kicker, special teams player. Start recognizing gunners. Players like Matthew Slater would win this award year after fucking year, and he'd have a better case for Hall of Fame, even if he still makes it. So, honestly, you got to change up the awards and make it so that players can get more recognition. I think this is the way to do it.
I agree with you, and I disagree with you a little bit. I definitely think that it is unfortunate that there are guys like Saquon and Jamar that will have the years they had,
and people
not
don't
get
remember.
any
People aren't going to remember that.
I don't want it to turn into all of a sudden we're handing out a million awards like kind of college football
and that's
does.
Why it's got
everybody gets a trophy.
It has to be precise.
But
it's got to be limited.
I like the idea of taking, because the All-Pro list I think is very highly sought after.
Build on it.
I like the idea of taking whoever makes the All-Pro list and then having
those are your finalists.
The best of your finalists for a specific award.
There you go. And keep Coach of the Year, keep Walter Payton Man of the Year, keep Assistant of the Year, keep Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Because that's fine. You can measure the whole league with Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Not MVP. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I'm tired of people grouping up positions, like comparing a generational running back to a quarterback. There is no fucking way to compare the two.
Well, if Saquon Barkley if they win the Super Bowl, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I can arguably say that this was the greatest season ever by a running back.
Ever.
And he won't get
nothing.
He won't get
Offensive Player of the
anything
Year.
but a Super Bowl and maybe probably Offensive Player of the Year.
And that's not even a guarantee because Jamar.
But then if it was vice versa, and if say it was Jamar versus say it was the Bengals versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl this year, those two going up against each other, like kind of how Cooper Kupp did with the Triple Crown when they won the Super Bowl for the Rams a couple of years ago.
Yes.
It'd be the same thing to where one of these guys, the MVP was either probably going to, if you take the same year this they had, well, I would probably say that Joe Burrow would be the MVP if they made it to the Super Bowl. And then I would say probably Barkley has the Offensive Player of the Year, and then where does that leave Jamar?
Exactly.
For the season that he had, making it all the way to the Super Bowl,
Yes.
Triple Crown, everything.
Not only does this allow you to give more players recognition, it allows you to honestly highlight players more. Instead of, like, my best example, Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow all deserve awards this year. And it's likely that 2 of them leave without any. Yeah. Any of them. That's ridiculous. And honestly, you could go further and break it down into AFC and NFC. But I feel like that would be going a little bit far, but that's what the MLB does. And the MLB has Silver Sluggers and Golden Gloves. They understand that there's different ways to affect the games, and players get recognized accordingly.
Yeah.
Why can't the NFL do that? This is not the NBA. There are not 5 people on a court.
That is a great argument to the NBA to where realistically, everyone on the
Everyone's
NBA
blocking
court,
shots, passing the ball,
scoring,
shooting,
it's
playing
all
defense.
very, very similar.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Can we give an award though to the Giants GM's kid for the prediction he made?
About
The one
Before the
Jaden
season
Daniels,
started?
yeah, that kid knows ball.
He asked him and said, "Who would
He
you
should get
trade
an award.
for?"
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, Dad. He's really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that clip.
To wrap that up, though, I do think that
Have I swayed you a little bit?
a little bit. I do now. Do you think it will ever happen?
I hope so. I don't think it will, but I will say, like, when I first brought this up, you were someone that was completely against it.
I was completely against it because I didn't like the idea of it. It felt like, oh, well, because you had a good year and you weren't good enough to beat this guy, we're still going to give you an award just to make you feel good.
Let's use you as an example because you were an all-conference player in college, right?
Well, I just think that was a huge because the people who vote for that in my league, it was the coaches that you played against. So to me, I held it as everyone did of, hey, I did well enough, I did good enough for you, the other team's coach, to go, that kid was really good, that kid impacted the game.
When you were a midfielder, right?
Yes, I mean, I was an offensive midfielder, and I scored a lot of goals.
Yes.
I played a lot of defense at times.
How many people won, or how many people were with you? How many people made all-conference midfielder?
Out of each conference, there were 3 first-team guys.
Okay.
And then those 3 first-team guys out of all the conferences got put up to All-Americans.
So my argument would be, do you feel that you had a better season than those two? Do you think you
naturally, yes, of course.
But realistically, like literally, did you? Like looking at the numbers,
Looking at the numbers, no. Looking at the number, now my league was a little bit. There were some teams that kind of cherry picked some games and kind of got their stats higher. Like there were some games to where
there were lots of games you didn't play the second half because you were killing the team.
You had an Ashton Jandy type of season.
I had a little bit to where at the end of the year when all of a sudden we were looking at numbers of who to vote for, mine were just a little bit lower than some of the guys above me, but I can go, you played the whole game, game, I didn't. That was this one too, this one too, this one too, and I didn't.
So for to use that as an example, what if on top of all conference, they had players of the year, midfielder of the year, and because you had those stats with way less minutes played, they decided to recognize you as the most important and
theory,
best.
Yes.
How would that feel?
In theory, yes.
How would that feel?
It would feel great, yes. In theory.
That's my point.
Because then you kind of feel like, hey, just because I didn't have the best stats, I was still voted on by my peers because I had the most impact within the game, regardless of if I had 5 more goals than the guy above me.
Your position. It is strictly your position. You're not being measured up against a goalie.
Or an attackman who, of course, they're going to score more goals than a midfielder. Yes.
That's my point.
Yes. I agree with you, and I definitely think it would be...
I hope it happens.
Taking it to like NFC and AFC, I think would be too much. That'd just be kind of throwing stuff out. But I do like the idea of rewarding offense alignment, rewarding defense alignment, and giving them also like some more motivation and pride to like play for your team. Then that only comes with, hey, if you do that a couple times a year, all of a sudden you get a team to throw the bag at you, and you're set for life. The same way some of these guys are.
Well, each division, they can take each division though.
Take
each division and literally pick the best position player at that position. So build an entire team in each division. So out of every 4 teams,
well, that's
and
the
then
all-pro.
from there, then build
all division.
Well, it is kind of, but then build it from there and select that best player.
I feel like you can't because the divisions aren't even. Like there are shit divisions, and you'd look at those teams and be like, that sucks. Like,
yeah, but they wouldn't win because they wouldn't actually get the big award. They might win for their 4 teams.
I do. I think there needs to be a step above all pro, and I think the MVP and Offensive Player of the Year awards are stupid.
They're very vanilla.
Yes.
When you really break it down,
they're boring.
It's very boring and vanilla. But this guy did this, and this guy did this, and this guy.
What it does,
well, this year's the perfect year for your argument, though, of having Jamar Chase and having Saquon doing what they're doing. And it's going to be a shame when
Think
Saquon
about it from
wins
the
the Super
rookies
Bowl,
of the
Saquon
year.
even sat out a game. He could have had an unbelievable stat, but he was like, it's more important for me to
Another
get to the
point.
playoffs, to get to the Super Bowl.
Another
Yeah,
point. Get rid of the same way you're doing this. Get rid of the offensive and defensive rookies of the year, and do the same thing for the rookies because Brock Bowers is not getting a fucking award this year.
That's another great
How?
example.
Malik Neighbors broke records. He's not getting recognized. There are so many people that could be recognized and should be.
But
They're not.
I play a little devil's advocate though. Is it just shows how hard it is to win those awards, no matter how good you are.
Hard or unfair?
Well, maybe
Because
a little
it's
bit
a
of
quarterback
both.
award. A quarterback is going to win, but Brock Bowers.
Maybe a little bit of both, but then it also it builds with as just how these athletes are. Of okay, cool.
Chip on the
I didn't
shoulder.
win it when I did all this. Look what I'm going to do next year. Look what I'm going to do the year after that.
Yeah.
So I see both sides of it, of being, playing and kind of going through the process of how this stuff is kind of voted for. In my level, I'm not saying I was in the NFL, of course not, but in my level of how this stuff kind of, I could imagine that it's very similar to people who vote, and I don't know exactly who votes. But yes, it is. That is a great another of Brock Bowers kind of getting all the records he
It
broke.
makes too much sense,
Yes.
man. It makes way
Yes.
too much sense, which means it's never going to happen.
No, it won't. Unfortunately, probably not.
It would stop the conversations that we're having right now, and that's what they want. So,